Right now, a cancer drug is sitting in phase 3 clinical trials. If approved, it will treat a form of liver cancer that has had almost no effective treatment for decades. What makes this drug different from every other drug in history? No human chemist designed it. An AI system identified the protein target. Another AI designed the molecule from scratch. A third AI predicted it would work before it ever touched a lab bench. The entire process, from concept to clinical candidate, took 14 months. Traditionally, that journey takes 10 to 15 years. I'm sivabioinfo. I come from a bioinformatics background, and I've spent years working at the intersection of biology and computation. What's happening right now in AI-driven drug discovery isn't just impressive from a tech standpoint. It's a fundamental shift in how we fight disease. Let me break down exactly how this works. Let's start with why we needed AI in the first place. Traditional drug discovery is one of the most expensive and failure-prone processes in any industry. On average, bringing a single drug to market costs about $2.6 billion. That's billion with a B. And here's the brutal part. 90% of drug candidates that enter clinical trials fail. 9 out of 10. After years of research, after hundreds of millions already spent. The pipeline looks like this. First, you identify a disease target, usually a protein that's malfunctioning. Then you screen millions of chemical compounds to find one that interacts with that target. Then you optimize that compound so it's safe, effective, and can actually be manufactured. Then you test it in cells, then in animals, then in humans across 3 phases of clinical trials. Each stage takes years. Each stage has massive dropout rates. As someone who's worked in bioinformatics, I can tell you that the data bottleneck alone is staggering. We generate terabytes of genomic, proteomic, and chemical data, but connecting those dots manually is like finding a specific grain of sand on a beach. While blindfolded, that's exactly where AI changes everything. The first step in drug discovery is figuring out what to target. Which protein, which gene, which pathway is driving the disease. Traditionally, this involved years of academic research, painstaking experiments, and a lot of educated guessing. Now, AI models trained on millions of biomedical papers, genomic datasets, and protein interaction networks can identify promising drug targets in days. Here's how it works. Large language models, similar to the ones that power ChatGPT and Claude, are being fine-tuned on the entire corpus of biomedical literature. We're talking about tens of millions of papers. These models can spot patterns and connections that no human researcher could find in a lifetime. Combine that with genomic data from projects like the UK Biobank and the Cancer Genome Atlas, and you have AI systems that can pinpoint exactly which proteins are most likely to be effective drug targets for a specific disease. One company, Recursion Pharmaceuticals, uses AI to analyze cellular images at massive scale. Their system photographs cells exposed to different genetic changes and different drugs, then uses computer vision to detect patterns invisible to the human eye. They've identified targets for rare diseases that had been overlooked for decades. Now here's where it gets really wild. Once you have a target, you need a molecule that fits it. Think of it like designing a key for a very specific lock. The old approach? Screen massive libraries of existing compounds. Test millions of them. Hope one works. The AI approach. Generate entirely new molecules from scratch. Generative chemistry models, think of them like DALL-E but for molecules, can design compounds that have never existed before. You give the AI a set of constraints. It needs to bind to this protein pocket. It needs to be soluble in water. Can't be toxic to liver cells. It needs to be synthesizable with existing chemistry. The AI generates thousands of candidates in hours. Not random guesses. Optimized, purpose-built molecules. And here's where my bioinformatics perspective comes in. What makes this so powerful is the integration of structural biology data. Thanks to AlphaFold and its successors, we now have predicted structures for virtually every human protein. That means generative AI can design molecules to fit protein shapes we've never even crystallized in a lab. Insilico Medicine, a company that's been leading in this space, used their generative AI platform to design a novel drug for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. From target to preclinical candidate in 18 months. That drug is now in human trials. One of the biggest reasons drugs fail in clinical trials is unexpected side effects. A molecule might work perfectly against the target but wreak havoc somewhere else in the body. This is where AI is making a massive but underappreciated impact. New AI models can predict off-target effects by simulating how a drug candidate interacts with thousands of proteins across the body, not just the intended target. They analyze chemical structures against databases of known toxic compounds to flag potential problems before a single animal is tested. Graph neural networks trained on molecular interaction data can predict with increasing accuracy whether a compound will cause liver damage, cardiac issues, or immune reactions. In 2025, a study published in Nature showed that an AI toxicity prediction model correctly flagged 87% of drugs that had been withdrawn from the market for safety reasons. If that system had been in place earlier, some of those drugs might never have reached patients. This is not just about speed. It's about safety. Even after you have a promising drug, clinical trials are where billions of dollars go to die. Patient recruitment is slow. Trial designs are often suboptimal, and results take years to materialize. AI is attacking this problem from multiple angles. First, patient matching. AI systems now scan electronic health records to identify patients who match specific trial criteria, cutting recruitment time by up to 70% in some cases. Second, adaptive trial design. Instead of rigid protocols, AI-driven trials adjust dosing, patient groups, and endpoints in real time based on incoming data. This means trials can reach conclusions faster with fewer patients, which is both cheaper and more ethical. Third, synthetic control arms. In some cases, AI can generate virtual control groups from historical patient data, reducing the number of people who need to receive a placebo. This is especially important for rare diseases where patient populations are tiny. The FDA has been increasingly open to these AI-assisted approaches. In 2025, they issued updated guidance specifically encouraging the use of AI in clinical trial design. That regulatory green light has accelerated adoption dramatically. Let me give you some concrete examples of what's happened in just the last year. Insilico Medicine's AI design drug for pulmonary fibrosis advanced to phase 2 trials with promising early results. The molecule was entirely designed by their generative AI platform. Recursion Pharmaceuticals partnered with NVIDIA to build BioHive 2, one of the most powerful supercomputers in the pharmaceutical industry, specifically to accelerate AI drug discovery across their entire pipeline. Google DeepMind expanded AlphaFold's capabilities to predict protein interactions with small molecules, ions, and DNA. This has opened up entirely new categories of drug targets. And perhaps most impressively, multiple AI-discovered drug candidates are now in late-stage clinical trials across oncology, immunology, and rare diseases. We're not talking about theoretical potential anymore. We're talking about medicines that real patients are receiving right now. In China, AI-discovered drugs are moving through regulatory approval at an unprecedented pace, with several expected to reach the market by late 2026 or early 2027. So what does all of this mean for you? If you're a patient, it means faster access to better drugs with fewer side effects. Diseases that were considered untreatable are now getting serious attention because AI has made it economically viable to pursue them. If you're a researcher or a bioinformatician like me, it means the tools we use every day are becoming exponentially more powerful. The genomic data, the protein structures, the pathway analyses that we work with, they're now feeding directly into AI systems that can act on that information. But I want to be clear about something. AI isn't replacing scientists. It's giving us superpowers. You still need domain expertise to ask the right questions, to validate the outputs, and to understand the biology. The bioinformatician who understands both the data and the algorithms is more valuable now than ever. The pharmaceutical industry spent over $200 billion on R&D last year. AI is on track to cut that cost dramatically while increasing the number of successful drugs. That's not incremental improvement. That's a revolution. We are living through the most exciting time in the history of medicine, and AI is the catalyst. I cover the intersection of AI, biology, and technology on this channel every single week. If you found this valuable, smash that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. I'm already working on a video about how AI is transforming genomics, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Drop a comment below. What disease do you think AI will cure first? I read every single comment. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed,